So before this next one begins, this took quite a bit longer to get out than I thought. The reason why is kind of obvious. You will find out as soon as the video starts. I recorded this whole video immediately after that happened, and I actually did have it ready to go, but I just found myself dealing with all of that and how I was feeling at the time. I've decided to keep it in because I think it captures what I was thinking and feeling at that time. And if there's anything this channel documents, it's my journey as a composer and arranger, and what was initially the plan for this year as a commentator. So I think it's important to leave it in for me to look back on. But I'm starting a new chapter in my life now, and I'm going to continue seeing these projects through to the end. So with that over, hope you enjoy. Oh, me, what a day today has been. I think my girlfriend might have just broken up with me, which kind of sucks. But you know, nothing we can really do about that. That's generally not even a joke. That is 100% true. I think I'm single now. But yeah, anyway. These videos won't make themselves, so someone has to talk about f***ing ghost albums. This is definitely the headspace to do this f***ing project in. Right, where's my notes? Well, first of all, let me rank the bloody things. This is really hard to rank. I mean, this is hard. How do we even do this? Okay, I think we're ready to go now. Welcome back. Today we are doing Meliora, the third album by Ghost. I'm going to be going through my ranking of the main 8 songs, first of all, and we'll get into some of the extra songs at the end. So first of all, I upload these review, discussion, ranking videos, whatever you want to call them, every Friday. So if you enjoy these and want to hear me talk about your favourite Ghost album, which might very well be this one, but may not be, then be sure to like and subscribe so you are staying tuned for any of my new uploads, so you definitely don't miss me talking about the album you'd like me to talk about. So these are being uploaded every Friday, and in between the Fridays I upload random things I'm sure you're seeing, normally music related stuff, covers, remakes, those kind of things. So if any of them appeal to you, check them out. So before we get into the main tracks, the interludes are Spurksanat and Devil Church. Spurksanat is a very cool little interlude. The main melody is the outro from Rats, which we are yet to cover, as it's on the next album. And that's a nice bit of foreshadowing, I guess. I don't know if it was the plan to always use that as an outro in a future song, but when you come up with an idea that good, like that melody is so dissonant, then you've got to make sure to use it properly, which they definitely do, and we'll get to that when we do Prequel next week. Time signature wise, it is also quite unusual. I did a transcription of it on the second channel a long time ago when I was planning to do an orchestral version of Rats. And yeah, just some really weird things going on there with starting a new phrase on the last note of the previous phrase. So instead of playing the last note and then playing the next note, they seem to like overlap, which means time signature wise, weird things are going on. But a very welcome harp interlude on the album. Leads very nicely into He Is. And as for Devil Church, I always remember Devil Church as an organ interlude, a bit like Deus Culpa, but it's very different to that. In fact, I always forget it has a band section when the band get brought in, making it sound less like Deus Culpa and more like Infestissimum, or really a combination of those two. But also a very fitting bridge from Majesty into Absolution. Anyway, on with the actual songs now. At 8th place, we have Deus in Absentia. Now, this is not a bad song, because no song on this album is bad. All of them are good because there is just a confidence about this album overall, which is much greater than anything we saw in Opus or Infestissimum. I don't really know how to explain the confidence, but it's definitely present. This is still a 40-minute album, it's still very short, but it feels like the songwriting is much more optimized, and we cram a lot more into these 40 minutes than we did in Infestissimum, for example, where some of those tracks might feel a little bit bloated or a little bit long. Even though there's less songs in this album, I feel like we do a lot more in each of those songs compared to the average song on Infestissimum or Opus for that matter. And that confidence and boldness is definitely present in this song. Deus in Absentia is going for something really specific, and in doing that, it means it's my least favorite on the album, just because this is not for me. I don't really vibe with the outro, the funeral pyre chorus that they continue to sing. I'm also not a huge fan of the structure of the song. I don't really like how there's a ticking of a clock and how jaunty the verse idea is, with the stabs with the piano and the guitar all playing at the same time. That doesn't really work that well for me. The elements I do like about this song are more to do with the instrumental texture. I like the piano lines that are being played, and I like what sound like guitar ad-libs throughout. I think texturally the song is built up very nicely, and I like the vocal delivery on this song as well. But coming back to the structure idea, once we finish the second chorus, I think it is, there is then this bridge section with a guitar solo or a couple of guitar solos, and then we come back to the verse and the chorus, and then we have the funeral pyre outro, and then there's the choral singing tacked on at the end. And I'm not sure that all of these things work together as well as they do in other songs on this album. I don't dislike any of it, it just doesn't really work for me. But I know people really like that song, so sorry in advance to those people who really like Deus in Absentia. Okay, at 7th place, I'm smiling even saying it because I can just tell that people aren't going to be happy with it. But at 7th place is Mummy Dust. Again, Mummy Dust is a good song. I've seen Ghost live. I know that this song, live especially, has a much different feel than it does in the studio version. I like how heavy and dark the main riff is. I like all of that. And I love the guitar solo for that same reason. And the tone of the guitars in this song is just great. I never used to like how it was really heavy and then would sort of have these very bright, explosive bursts. But that's grown on me over time. I do always think, though, it sounds a bit like a Mario Kart song or something, like Ghost Valley. I know it probably doesn't. I don't know if anyone else will make that connection, so let me know in the comments if you do. But there is a goofiness about it that I can't really shift when I listen to the song. And I think its simplicity works against it on this album. I just think there's so much more on offer in other songs. At number 6, we have Majesty. Now, just directly comparing Majesty to Mummy Dust, this feels a lot more full. It has a much more full sound that I would expect from this album, and that we even heard in Deus in Absentia. The highlight of this song is definitely the verse riff. The verse riff is great. And when I saw Ghost live, they also did play this song, which was a very welcome surprise. They had Tobias floating in a big purple dress because it was on the Skeletor, and that was really cool. The King Kong single art for this is also very funny. I like that a lot. And the guitar solo is just incredible in this song. And as we go into that solo as well, from the chorus, there is this sort of bridging section where Tobias sings You, and you have these backing vocals as well. And that's very much like how you would expect from Ghost that first time. And then in the second time, it's a lot more dissonant with the R's. And I'd completely forgotten that that was part of this song. It's a really great effect. I really wish that Ghost would use that more. The solo follows a structure that I've already mentioned in previous reviews, but I've come to expect from Ghost, which is that it has a very dark, melodic beginning, and then when it develops its ideas, it goes into major or into a brighter tone, and that's exactly what this song does as well. But the solo is really great. And as the song ends as well, we hear the title being sung, and that's a really cool moment, completely different from the rest of the song to end it. The only thing that kind of lets this song down for me, that I don't like it, is the chorus. So the first half of the chorus is fine because it's all like as you would expect. And then the second half of the chorus, the vocals are sung on the offbeat, and that always really throws me. And I'm like, why did you do that? I don't really know why that was done. I guess it makes it sound a bit different, but it just sort of throws me off, like the all beauty lies within part. It's like we do it, and we do it on the offbeat, and then have to find an awkward way back into the original groove, and I just don't like it. It feels like an interruption rather than a cool deviation, and that's the only thing that lets the song down, because everything else about the song is excellent, and that's why it's up here. That's why it's above Mummy Dust. That's why it's its 6th place, but it can't go higher than that, because none of the rest of the songs have a part of the song which actually irks me every time I hear it, and not even Mummy Dust has that. Okay, and at 5th place, we have Spirit, the opening track. This is really cool for loads of reasons. The first most obvious one is the spooky atmosphere that is established by the organ. So we're using like these keyboard organs a lot more now in this album, and something that I didn't mention in the Majesty part was that parts of the guitar solo were doubled by the keyboard, and that's really cool. Not something we'd actually heard from those previous two albums. That's something new that's established in this album and in this song. Now, when I say it's much spookier, it's much more cartoonishly spookier, much more overtly. It's much less gothic than the opening of Infestissimum with that choir. And I would be expecting something more gothic from Ghost to open their album, but instead we have this overtly cartoonish spookiness that is much more similar to Scooby-Doo than it is to previous Ghost albums. And that's fine, because I don't actually have a problem with that. Ghost are quite a campy band. There is a campiness to this album. You can still hear the choir, but it's buried underneath that synth. Our priority is clearly with that synth establishing the spooky, cartoonish tone. And Scooby-Doo is often a insult levied at Ghost to their sound. Like, Ghost sound like Scooby-Doo, it sounds rubbish, it's not metal. I think it really works for them, and I've got no problem with it at all. And I liked it when they lent into it as well in the future with the Meliora Cross music video. I mean, that's basically Scooby-Doo style animation, so that's all very fine by me. But the next most obvious thing after that synth is the groove of the song. So it's 4/4, and when those drums come in, it's being played in 4/4, but it's subdivided into a group of 6 and then a group of 2. So we play this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have these 2 quick beats, 1, 2, to bring us back into the original groove, 6 and 2. This makes up 8 and therefore 2 bars of 4/4. So we do our 2 bars and we do the 2 bars again, but there comes a point where we actually cut out that extra group of 2 and just have a group of 6. So now we're playing in 6/4, and we're playing up to 6 and then up to 6 again, and then we go into triplets, but the triplet pattern repeats every 8 downbeats. So instead of triplets in 6/4, it's triplets in 4/4. So we're going 4/4, 6/4, and then triplets in 4/4, which is essentially 12/8, where the dotted crotchet is equal to the crotchet value of 4/4. I don't know if that made any sense over audio, but those who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. If you're unsure, just try counting it, it's really cool. And there are various parts of this song where the synth comes back, and the synth reminds me very heavily of Danny Elfman's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The main theme to that movie has a synth that's very similar, doing little ad-libs and runs in the background. And in the chorus, we keep up the triplet feel. I don't know if we've heard backing vocals before in Opus, or I think we have in Infestissimum, but this was the first time that I really noticed it, at least. We also had the choir return to the chorus to give it a different texture. The solo has some unique properties so far. The first one is that it's quite long, and it has a development from a minor moody idea into a major section, which, as we've mentioned, is starting to become a formula for Ghost in the way that they write their solos, which is really cool. And as we mentioned before, the solo is being doubled by the synth, which was completely new at this point. And the way the song ends is really cool as well, because the vocals hit this high note and it blends into the rest of the instruments, which builds us up into the next song. So a really thoughtful transition there in the album. At number 4, we have He Is. Now, this song made me realise just how clear each instrument really is in the Meliora mix. Infestissimum is a big step up production-wise from Opus, but if I think about a song like Body and Blood, they all sound like, I'm going to make up some terms here, band playing together type songs. But in He Is, there's an acoustic guitar part, a bass line, a piano line in the background. Piano is also a new instrument for Ghost showing up in this album. Everything feels like it's doing something unique and different to serve the song. This interweaving builds up a texture, it builds up the soundscape, as opposed to building a wall of sound through doubling or having the band all play a similar thing together. It's a different approach to the songwriting, and the melodies are so much more thoughtful, it feels like, than before. And it made me think for the first time, it really wants to make you know more about who the songwriter is and who the vocalist is. It's very easy for us to look back at albums like this with what we know about the band today and go, oh, that's very clever that Tobias wrote that. But this was an anonymous band at the time. And this song just made me realise you would really want to know who those people are or more about the creatives behind this band, because clearly so much thought has gone into it and we know nothing about these people. So it was no surprise really that the hype around Ghost's anonymity started to build around this time as well. This solo has harmonised leads, which is also brand new for Ghost at the time. This is something that Meliora has that the other two albums simply don't have. They don't have these solos that are harmonized in thirds. And another thing that's quite interesting about this song is the way that if you weren't going to listen to the lyrics and you were just going to listen to the song in terms of texture and maybe like the he is in the chorus, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was a Christian song. Like, one of the elements of The Devil is deception. And you just get the sense that if you were to play this amongst Christian people, that quite a few of them probably wouldn't pick up on what the lyrics in the verse are saying and would just be like, oh, this is a nice song, presumably about God, when it's not about God at all. And I might be wrong on this, but the music video, I believe, is making reference to a cult leader who had a congregation of people and then they all drank this Kool-Aid or lemonade or something, and that unfortunately killed all of those people. I believe that it's making a reference to that. But if it isn't, then it certainly could be. That's a valid interpretation. So it just feels that the criticisms of religion or organized Christianity are a lot stronger in this album, or bolder even, linking in with the boldness of the album and the songwriting and the ideas. One last thing to mention about the song is probably one of the most obvious ones, but this is a very pretty song, and it's something that Ghost actually, by this point, hadn't really done. They'd had quite heavy songs, they'd had songs that were more poppy or more mainstream, but having a acoustic ballad like this was completely new for them, and it still stands quite apart from the rest of the Ghost discography. It's definitely a showcase of their songwriting chops, and the fact that they are capable of a lot more than just metal songs with heavy riffs. And at third place, we have Absolution. This song is really great. The main riff is chromatic and really heavy. It has this driving energy and the chugging is so good. The piano in the chorus really makes this song. You've got the really heavy verse and then a bright piano sound in the chorus, which really elevates it. And the vocals are doing this as well, but they're providing that contrast between the two sections of the song. So when you launch back into the verse with the main riff, you really feel the heaviness. It really gives it impact. This song has the scale and the grandiosity and epicness that I would expect from a Ghost song. Every Ghost album needs a song with this size, and I think the solo in this is still to this day one of the best Ghost solos. It's, in my opinion, the most technical one, certainly that they've written by this point, and probably that they've ever written. It's really long, it starts off dark and brooding, but again, develops into a brighter sound. And there's a really cool tapping part of the solo, which is quite uncommon for Ghost at the time. And it's just got everything. It's got this enormous chorus that you can sing. It's an anthemic song. There is a reason that Ghost used this song as the promotional single for Right Here, Right Now. It's because it is a giant song, and it's got a great anthemic singable chorus. I would go so far as to call it a Ghost classic. It should be at every Ghost live performance. At second place, we have From the Pinnacle to the Pit. This is still one of the coolest songs that Ghost have ever done. The opening with the bass line and the bass tone is unbelievable. Definitely the heaviest bass tone that Ghost have ever managed to come up with. And sticking it front and center of this song is so welcome. It kind of feels like the mission statement of this song is, we've come up with this really cool bass line, and that's what we're going to play throughout the whole song, or as much of the song as we can, and the guitars are just going to double this bass line because it's such a good idea, and they're only going to deviate for short periods of time before they come back to doubling the bass line. The guitar tone is really interesting on this as well, because it sounds the most like a synth than any of the guitar tones that we've heard so far. So you can't really tell if it's the guitar or the synth playing that, for example, the opening lead line is when the song begins. But I do love that guitar tone. I love the bass tone, and I love the guitar solos as well. Structurally, this song is unusual, but I actually really quite like the structure. You don't really find out what the chorus is until quite a bit later. I would say that the chorus is you're cast off from the heavens to the ground section, but we don't hear that until quite a bit later. Instead, what we hear is we hear the verse riff, which is that bass line, and then we hear a development where we're jumping up and down, da-ga-da-ga-da-da, and that part always mirrors to me the title of the song, Pinnacle to the Pit. We're going from heaven, from a high point, from a high note down to a low note, and we're jumping on, oscillating between those two. But that's a really heavy development on that already really heavy verse riff. And because we play that a couple of times, you might think that that's the chorus, but then it's revealed to us later that it probably isn't. And another standout of this song is the drumming. So especially in that verse, the drums are keeping a constant hit on the ride cymbal. So we have a snare backbeat, we have a kick drum, and we have the ride cymbal being played constantly. And you would think that if you're a drummer, that's taking up all of your hands, but actually we have an additional line, another voice from the drums, which is the hi-hat being opened and closed, being controlled by the left hand, the snare hand, and the other foot. So it's like we're playing one more voice line on the drums than you would expect. Really clever, really cool drumming. And I love when the drumming switches up and hits the crash cymbals. That really makes that moment, that development of the verse riff feel a lot heavier. This song has a really clever title, it's got really clever lyrics. I love the Latin lyrics as well. This song is about Satan and is a devil worshipping song, much like, Absolution is and He is, and Majesty, and all of these things have something in common where it's a lot less obvious that it's about Satan than Year Zero, for example, where the words Hail Satan are literally used. I feel like you can enjoy this song without actually putting two and two together and working out what the song is actually about, which is probably why this album has such a breakout appeal. Not saying that it really turns many people off, but it doesn't come across hokey or over the top. It just comes across like a really good song, and then you work out what it's about later. Whereas in those earlier albums, Dead Human Sacrifice, Hail Satan, Body and Blood, a song called Satan Prayer, the emphasis was on getting across what the band is about and what the themes are. Whereas Ghost feel like they've proven that now, and they're just making really tight, succinct songs. And the focus has shifted, and that's probably why this album broke out so heavily for them. But speaking of songs that broke out for Ghost, that leaves us with the number one spot on the album, which is Cerise. This is probably the best Ghost song. It is always hard to pick a favourite because often my favourites change depending on how I'm feeling, but this is eternally a good Ghost song. There is a reason that they won the Emmy for this, and it's just because it's an undeniably good song. The opening riff starts off with this acoustic part, and we build up the metal elements, the electric guitar, the drums, as the song progresses. And we keep playing this riff over and over again. This riff is a really dissonant riff, but the more you play it, the more used to that dissonance you become. And that dissonance doesn't really indicate where the song is going at any time. So we're sort of left rising and falling, and we don't know where we're going to go. We just know that we're increasing in drama and tension because the part is being played louder, and it's being harmonized, and it's being doubled by different instruments. It's building us up and up until we hit the main riff. And it's just the heaviest riff that Ghost have ever come up with. It's just undeniably brilliant. And it's made so much heavier by the use of a timpani or a heavy concert bass drum, I think it really is. Just playing that at the start of each measure. It's a heaviness that we have not heard from Ghost prior. This is the heaviest sound that they have come up with. And I think it's fair to say the heaviest sound that they achieved throughout their whole discography. I don't think they've gotten heavier than this. Like maybe the Rats outro or Faith, but I don't think so. In terms of the scale of this, the size of the sound, it doesn't get bigger than Cerise. And this has some of the most clever lyrics about religion that Ghost have ever written as well. One of the lyrics that always stands out to me is, "I know your soul is not tainted even though you've been told so." Directly confronting a religious believer with the fact that the people who are supposed to be looking after them and guiding them in organised Christianity are telling these people they've got original sin, their soul is tainted, and flipping that on its head and saying, well, Satanism is actually the religion, the organisation that is going to tell you that you're intrinsically valuable and not intrinsically sinful or wrong. Just a really, really clever lyric. I should probably clarify, I'm not a devil worshipper myself. I am an atheist, which is why none of this stuff troubles me. Not that it should trouble a Christian who's confident in their beliefs, obviously, but I just think if your aim is to mock religion, like Ghost is trying to do, then that's a really effective way of doing it. It's super clever songwriting, and you just don't hear that kind of stuff outside of Ghost. A really unique draw for this band, regardless of if you believe in Satan or think that they're actual devil worshippers themselves. So that's the album. There are two more songs I'd like to talk about. from the Pope Star EP, or at least the deluxe version of this album, and those are Zenith and Square Hammer. I don't really want to talk about the covers. I can take or leave the covers. I've got them ranked in a YouTube short if you really want to know what my thoughts are. But the two original songs included as part of this album, we're going to talk about. So, first off, we're going to talk about Zenith, which is the hidden track on this album, which was only available on the vinyl release of one of these versions of the album. If you got the deluxe version on record, then you had this on there. And the only way to listen to it for a long time, I remember on YouTube to do this, was there was a guy who had uploaded an audio recording of this song from his luminescent green vinyl. And it wasn't until Ghost released the 13 Commandments, I think, that this song became digitally available, so now everyone can hear it. But this has always been a favourite of mine. The piano is really prominent in this song, and we mentioned that piano is a new addition for this album, but it's used in Deus in Absentia in a little run, or it's used in Absolution for the bedding of the chorus. Another thing about Cerise is very similar to He Is. There is this great sound texture from all of the different instruments playing. We have the acoustic guitar and the organ and the keyboard and the guitars and the electric guitars and the vocals all doing these different things, and it just makes the sound feel so rich. But in Zenith, the piano is prominent, and the playing is quite nuanced actually in the way that it's harmonized. You have each hand playing these chord shapes, and the exact notes that they play are a little bit tricky to spot at first glance. You need to do some close listening to work out exactly what harmony is being played with each melody note. But instead of introducing a heavy guitar riff and then building around that, we seem to play the piano melody in around that F minor chord and then build the riff around that. And the chorus is quite unconventional for Ghost as well, because when we leave the verse, it feels like we're entering a pre-chorus. And the pre-chorus just keeps building and building and building until we've heard the chorus, until it's over, and then we go back into the verse. And that's a really interesting structure. And the coolest part about this song is the bridge, where we have the choir return, especially the countertenor choir, singing in Latin. And that's a really great thing about this song that texturally really identifies it. This song is great, and it's a great cult classic as well. Because of its release, there's a lot of people who maybe still haven't heard this song or have only heard it recently. And if you have missed it, you should definitely check it out. It's really good. And the other song to mention is the most famous one. I mean, I'm used to saying the most famous one because it hasn't really registered with me just how famous Mary on a Cross is, and I'm not the biggest fan of that song. So to me, the biggest Ghost song, even though it might not technically be the biggest anymore, but the one that was the most famous, the biggest single by them for the longest time, was Square Hammer. This is really the mainstream breakout single for the band. I mean, Cerise was popular and garnered attention, but Square Hammer was what brought people to listen to Cerise. It really broke through, and you can really see why. When we talked about anthemic choruses, like Cerise has and like Absolution has, Square Hammer has the biggest anthemic chorus of them all. To this day, there is not a bigger chorus than Square Hammer. The only thing coming close would be Dance Macabre. And that line in the chorus, "Are you ready to swear right here, right now, before the devil," just encapsulates Ghost, really. If you were Ghost, you couldn't hope for a better breakout song than Square Hammer. And it's so accessible as well. It's 4 minutes, it's perfectly streamlined and optimized, and the guitar tone for this is slightly different to how it sounds for the rest of the album. It sounds slightly heavier, slightly more distorted, and that contrasts it more with the guitar lead, which again sounds very much like an organ at the start, and again giving that sort of Scooby-Doo sound. The drive of the song is maintained by the drums, where we're hitting the snare constantly on each downbeat, and that gives space to the rest of the instruments. The guitars pull back, and other instruments that are part of the Ghost soundscape, like the organ or the keyboard, come in and play little parts and introduce themselves. And so when we hit the bridge solo part, they all come together, and it feels really natural and really expected. But it's just a great riff. That opening riff is immediately recognizable. It's really, really clever. And it's no surprise that this song was such a big hit for them. So if I were to include those two in my overall ranking, I would have Deus in Absentia at 10 as normal, Mummy Dust above, Majesty, Spirit, and then in 6th place I'd put Zenith, so above Spirit, but below He Is. And in 5th place, I'm putting Square Hammer, because I don't think Square Hammer is as good as He Is for me. I get a lot more out of listening to He Is, and the way that there's so much counterpoint in He Is, and the lyrics and the double meanings. And then Absolution, From the Pinnacle to the Pit, and Cerise at number 1. So that would be my overall ranking of those 10 songs. Square Hammer and Zenith, I like them both, and they're sandwiched just in the middle there. So that's my ranking for Zenith. Those are my thoughts and opinions. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed. Put your opinions in the comments. Have a chat about it. And if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe, and then tune back in on Friday when we will be talking about Prequel.